Right on, writers, and welcome to the Books by Adrian author platform. My name is Adrian. I'm your host today, and this is the podcast, the follow-up to the live stream Sunday episode from this week. With me today, as on that day, is Chris Kenny. Chris, why don't you go ahead and once again say hello to everybody at home and remind them where they can find all your stuff.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to me talking absolute junk. No, I'm kidding. It's going to be very good. You can find me Instagram, Facebook, email, all of that good stuff is going to be down below. Yeah, let's get into it.
That's it. All right, nice and easy. I like it. All right. So, how did it go on live stream Sunday? Did you enjoy the show?
No, it was terrible, man. I don't know
I thought so. I had a real bad feeling the whole time, man.
I hated talking to you. It was
yeah. Let's never do this again.
Never. If we could just cut this now, that'd be great.
Done. No, man. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure.
I really enjoyed it, and the comments were great. People were engaging. It's such good fun.
Yeah, we had a good turnout. Lots of people in the chat, lots of questions. It was really nice. It's always nice when that happens.
I don't want to say that I'm like the main event attraction, but
well, I mean, yeah,
the numbers are there.
The numbers are there. Oh, your modesty knows no bounds.
I know.
No, it's true, man, because like that's kind of the cool thing about like hosting this show where like every week I have a different guest. It's that the audience is always a little bit different. I have like my faithfuls that always show up, but like it's always nice to see like who's here just for the guest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was fun.
It's nice, and I'm very grateful, honestly, on a serious note, for everyone turning up and watching and participating.
Same, yeah. It was a good time, man. Your wife especially, she was cracking me up, man. She's funny.
She always actually steals my limelight, so I need to start banning her from the comments.
I don't know, man. I think she might be your secret weapon. I think that you. I think she might be like your what's it called? Your Thor's hammer or whatever. You know, it's like it's because like she's. If I say her name 3 times, she'll just appear. No, man, like, you know, you credit her with inspiring you to finally get some writing done, to put your stuff out. Like, she seems to be your biggest supporter. She was in there in the chat the whole time. As soon as it was over, she popped in to sing our praises. It was good, man. It was fun. Like, she's a good egg. Hang on to that one. Don't fuck it up, man.
I'm gonna try not to.
And don't let me fuck it up for you, because I was in there like throwing like.
you were walking a thin fucking line, man. We were dangling, we were balancing, and I was like, uh-oh.
It's all about balance, man. You just gotta find one foot in front of the other. All right, let's get back to the questions now.
Serious.
Have you outlined your entire series? Do you know where it's all going?
Yes, otherwise it would be a real fucking disaster.
Not necessarily. Yeah. There's a lot of people out there that don't do it. But go ahead.
No, I actually have. That was kind of one of the first things I did.
Smart.
It was because I always had in my head I wanted a trilogy, and I'm not going to lie, it kind of comes from a bit of a financial standpoint, because people tend to like longer series, you know, and even a trilogy these days is quite short.
Yeah.
It's only 3 books. Fuck that. You know, so now I'm kind of like, maybe I should have done more, but whatever, it's done. So yes, I always had in my head 3 books, and yeah, it was kind of like I knew. It's really funny. I knew the ending of every single book before I'd even written a word. I knew.
Really?
I knew how I wanted every book to end, because they're very kind of cliffhangery. It's like book 1, you're like, what happens next, etc., etc. So I had that straight away, what I wanted to do, and I've actually stayed very faithful to that original Earth Chronicles. It was just very much from the word go, really. I knew where it was going to go. So yeah, very long-winded way of saying yes.
No, I admire that, because I have loosely outlined my series, my trilogy. I know the big, tentpole kind of moments that I really, really want to hit, but honestly, I don't know how it all ends yet. Like, I have a vague idea. I have a very I know there's this big climactic thing that everything is kind of going towards, but what the result of that is, I haven't really decided yet. And it's
kind of cool though, in a way, because you can kind of get excited about what you're writing, because you yourself are kind of writing it as a reader, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
you
sort of.
what happens.
Yeah,
and it's like, and then you've got the power though to change it. If you write something down and it kind of sucks, you go, well, actually, let's tweak it.
That's something people forget. You can just delete and write it again. People get really stressed out about but what if it's no good? I'm like, then just do it again. Do it better. Fix it.
Yeah. Throw that shit away. Start over. Come on.
Yeah, it's really not that complicated. It's a lot of work, but I mean, just do it again.
Sometimes you got to do the work though, right? That's
Yeah, you got to sit down and actually do it. Yeah, and people are always talking and asking about writer's block and how to fight it and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like you, I don't really get writer's block. The problem is just sitting down to write.
It's having the time, isn't it?
Having the time or the motivation. Sometimes the motivation's not there.
Yeah,
we're
all very busy, right? There's always something going on, whether it's family, whether it's your actual job. Like, I don't do this as a living yet. And motivation, as we kind of touched on in my fitness talk, is very real with writing as well, right? If you don't feel motivated to write the words, you probably won't. And if you do write, they'll probably be a bit shit anyway. So it's very hard.
Now, what I always recommend is if you're sitting down to do your writing or editing or whatever it is that you're sitting down to do, and you don't feel that motivation, you don't feel like you're actually down to do it right now, but you have to, you have to. You got, so what I always recommend is looking into different different writing techniques that will shake your stuff up. You know what I mean? If you typically sit down and just write, today I'm writing chapter 2, and you're just going and you just start writing. If that's what you normally do, then do something completely different. Maybe work on, the snowflake method or whatever it is, or, maybe go back to outlining, maybe do a little free writing. Maybe you need to sit down and just jog some ideas loose. There's a lot of different little writing exercises that you can do to just kind of kickstart your machine a little bit when you don't feel like going.
Absolutely, and again, I'm going to link it to kind of fitness. Or when you're writing, everything comes down to repetitions. So you want to practice your techniques. And something I was discussing with my fiance the other day actually was doing more little short stories. It's just as a writing exercise. For me, I've finished my second book. It's out with my beta readers who've done their feedback, but I haven't done any other writing really. Apart from literally a couple of days ago, I was like, right, fuck this, let me start book 3, let me just do something. Yeah. But I think I need to get into the habit more of actually just doing these little kind of short story things, just random, any old shit, just get a little prompt and go. Just to keep, the rhythm going and basically hone my skills, for lack of a better word.
Same. Yeah. One of the things that Kent Schonfer said to me, when he started reading my stuff, it's hey man, it's good, but write the end a few times before you put this out. Write some short stories, write some flash fictions, get some stories completed, and we were talking earlier about planning out the entire trilogy, and in your case where you're like, well, maybe I should have made it a longer series and stuff. I started thinking the same thing, and then everybody's telling me to write short stories and flash fiction, and I'm like, well, I'll put out some short story collection in between the bigger books. Set them in the same universe. I can tell stories in the history of my world. I can tell stories on some other planet, whatever I want to do, and just put out little short story collections, or maybe even a novella if I have one short shorter story that I want to tell. And just grow the series that way. It's still a trilogy of novels, but it has a broader scope of the series,
That's exactly what, you look at all the successful franchises like Marvel, DC, whoever it might be, Star Wars, they're all doing these little spin-offs within the same universe. I know we're talking more media and TV here, but same thing applies to books. And like you, I've actually got 3 or 4 little novellas or short stories from the original Earth Chronicles, which I might do at some point. But I think, I'll be honest, this first trilogy for me is just a massive fucking learning curve.
I'll bet, yeah.
Like, honestly, the first book, now I look at it and I'm like, oh man, I need to redo a lot of stuff in that. Not from like a story point of view, just a craft and technique.
Sure.
Perspective.
You self-published, yes?
Yes.
Well, that's part of the beauty of that, is that you can just go back and re-edit your old book and then republish it again. Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting because, everybody always reminds us that our first book is going to be our worst book. And it's supposed to be a reassuring thing that, it's always going to get better. Your books are only going to get better as you become a better writer. And that's great. But if your first book is the first book in a trilogy, then it becomes like the black spot of the trilogy. You know what I mean? And you got to go back and like fix it. But then I'm thinking, your first trilogy is probably going to be your worst trilogy. You know what I mean? Like whatever other book series you get into, you're only going to become a better and better writer. You're going to rewrite the entire first trilogy. I don't know.
Exactly. I think for me, honestly, my plan at the moment is before I release book 3, I am going to go back and edit book 1.
Nice.
Again, nothing drastic, just fixing little things like
touch
points
it up.
of view and stuff like that. I got really kind of muddled. It's kind of shit you don't really realize when you're writing, and unless you've got someone to actually tell you, then you just carry on in your merry way, like keep typing, keep writing stuff. So I need to go and fix a few of those. And as you said, if the first book in the trilogy isn't as great as you hope, people aren't going to buy the trilogy, so the whole thing becomes a bit of a moot point, right? Like, you need to hook people in, so that they buy the other 2 books, essentially.
Nothing bothers me more than when somebody's like, oh man, you got to watch this new show, it's amazing. And I'm like, oh cool, you know what's it about, and it sounds really good. And they're like, but you got to kind of get through the first season. The first season kind of sucks. It really gets good in the second season. I'm like, I'm not going to watch that.
So who's fucking got time for that?
I'm not going to watch that. Why would I watch something that is completely unenjoyable for an entire season just to hopefully get to something better later on? Like,
it blows my mind, right? It's like, just dedicate 10 or 12 hours of your life to something that you might enjoy.
And then I'm looking at them like, how much time do you have on your hands that you can just watch an entire season that you didn't even like?
Just blow through it through the early hours.
I swear, bro, if I watch a pilot episode of a show and I don't like the pilot episode, I'm not watching that show. I don't care if it gets better later. I'm not watching that show. Now, if I watch the pilot and it's great, and then the next 4 episodes are garbage, I'm also going to jump ship on that show. Okay, you had a nice pilot, you probably hired a good director, and then the rest of your show is just garbage.
The funds went one way, and then the rest just
run
out of budget.
I don't have time, man. I got a wife, I got kids, I got a full-time job. I'm trying to write a book. I do not have time to watch a shitty season of television.
No. Who's got that time? How old are you?
I don't. I have a 6-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, both boys.
Ooh, trouble, man. Boys as well. Shit.
They're pretty well behaved. The little one just thinks he's in charge, and it's a real problem. He just thinks he runs the show. And like the other day, he's starting to speak in full sentences now and everything, and like he's good about most things that we ask him to do. One of the things is, if you're done eating, you take your plate and you put it in the sink. Cool. So, he's 2, so he can't even see the inside of the sink. He's just like throwing it in and hoping that it gets in. Yeah. So he throws his plate in and he sees that it doesn't go in the sink. It like comes out of the sink and falls on the counter. And then he looks at me, he goes, "You put it in the sink." But like with like attitude. And I'm like, who do you think you are telling me? He said, "You put it in the sink." And like for a second, I was like thought about it for a second. I'm like, like I almost did it. I'm like, who do you think you are? You're 2. Get out of here. Like, what are you talking to me like that for?
Do you pay rent? No.
Like, yeah, no, you don't. Like, so do you have plans outside of this series after the trilogy? What's next after that?
Yeah, the next series. is going to be. I want to get your opinion on this, actually.
Hit me. Of course.
So, that's very kind of you, sir. Cyberpunk is a genre I want to write in. Now, I want to do it, and I'm kind of like, I've got the feelers of the kind of story. It's going to be like when I say cyberpunk, talking, Blade Runner kind of setting, very, dystopian, a lot of high tech, poverty, that kind of juxtaposition.
Sure.
I've got my main character. He's going to be a bounty hunter. He's kind of doing jobs for someone he thinks is kind of good, but it turns out, oh, surprise, no, he's not. So it's kind of going down that path. I want it to be a longer series, like I said, kind of 6 books or so. My kind of question to you, and what I want to get your point of view on, is cyberpunk something people want to read? Or is it more a kind of visual thing, like Altered Carbon on Netflix, Blade Runner, Akira, that kind of stuff? Is it something you more want to see than read?
That is a good question. Well, the first example that you threw up, Altered Carbon, started out as a novel.
It was a novel, right? Exactly.
Novel series. So, first off, there might be your answer right there. In my opinion, genre is never the thing that makes or breaks your book and your book's sales. Yes. If it's a good story, it's a good story, and anybody who reads it is going to tell people that it's a good story. Yeah. That's what people care about at the end of the day. So if that's, if you have a good story to tell in that genre, tell it. I wouldn't worry about how many people are going to buy my book based on genre. No. Now, that being said, that's coming from a dude who like genre bends. My novel has like every genre imaginable in it because it's like a big epic, and I have at least 3 main characters and several others, secondary characters. A lot of them have point of view chapters as well. And all of them are kind of in different genres. I have a detective who's straight up hunting a serial killer. I've got this like psychedelic hippie chick who is discovering magical powers. I've got this bounty hunter guy who is trying to leave that life behind and start, going straight and doing a good for his community. But it's kind of a spoiler alert, it's a tragedy. So like I'm melting all these genres together, and in book 2, one of the minor characters in book 1 kind of steps up and becomes one of my main characters in book 2, and her storyline is going to follow way more of a cyberpunky kind of deal. You're going to have like cyborgs and people with like robot arms and shit like that. It's going to be fun. But so that being said, I just feel like if you have a good story to tell, who cares about the genre? Because genre is dressing anyway. It's all of this, and the only thing that really matters is the character. The actual character, who he or she is, and what they are going through. So, write it, dude. If you have a good idea, write it.
Yeah, I've always been kind of really just fascinated by that genre. I don't know if you play many video games.
I do, but not very cyberpunky ones. I'm more of like a Legend of Zelda kind of dude.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I can see you. Is that the Triforce back there? There you go. For those of you listening, there is a Triforce on Adrian's desk.
it's my backlight.
Nothing is exciting, just a very pale light here. There we go. I'll turn it off. Right. Anyway, back to the point. Deus Ex, which is very kind of cyberpunky, very conspiracy. It kind of leans heavily on things like the Illuminati,
nice.
Echelon, and Majestic 12 stuff. So I'm just saying words at this point, but point being, I really like that story. I like the setting, that kind of noir. Yeah, I just want to write in that genre because you can be a bit more gritty. Like the original Earth Chronicles, I've made it accessible to all ages. There's no swearing. There's descriptions of violence, certainly. I'm keeping it very kind of PG, not even PG-13. So for cyberpunk, I mean, listen, I swear, I cuss. I've seen some shit. I want shit to come out. Not literally shit, but I want to be more graphic.
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I want to have that kind of license to do that. And I think the next series
more
will
adult,
be my
more
more adult and more kind of geared towards that. Listen, this isn't going to be for everyone, but fuck it, it's not meant to be for everyone.
Yeah.
Read it if you enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, in writing my novel series now, one of the things that I always set out to do was to not leave anything out for the next book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not necessarily that I want to throw everything in the kitchen sink into this book, and it's not that I'm not going to cut things out. I am. But I'm not going to like purposefully save some great idea that I have for a future book. I hear too many writers talking about that lately, about like, oh, you know, I can't wait to get to write, you know, a book where I can do this. And I'm like, just do it. Just put it in the book that you're writing now. If it's a great idea, just do it. Like, why are you waiting? Because you're going to have more great ideas. Like, it's not your last one, you know, like you just like use it. Like, what? Yeah. Like, what? Who are you waiting for? Who are you saving it for? Just put it in there. So because of that, my book, as I said earlier, is just this big like melting pot of every kind of character that I can think of, every kind of place that I can think of. I just want to throw it all in there, all the different kind of plot lines that I can play with. And it is an adult book, and there's going to be, you know, more adult scenes for, you know, lack of a better, some smut for Aphrodite Lee. Some smut. There will be some smut in there. And it's important to me that there be some smut in there, along with all the rest, all the violence and I you know, drug culture is represented in my. I gotta send you some chapters. You haven't read my chapters yet, have you? I'm gonna send you some chapters.
I was actually gonna say, jumping to the end of the conversation, I was gonna say, look, send me what you've got. I'd love to read anything you've got, man. I
just sent BC Brown some chapters for her to do sensitivity reading for. And they're chapters that I haven't sent to anybody yet. Like, I have a few chapters that I've felt confident in for a long time now, so I send those out to a lot of people. Like the first 6 or so, I just feel like really solid, and I can send to anybody. But I'm starting to send people like, you know, critique partners and beta readers chapters that I haven't shown anybody before. So I'm back to like that, like biting my nail. Like I sent her the email and I was immediately like, oh my God, she hates it. She hasn't responded yet. She hates every word that I wrote. You know?
It's been one whole minute.
It's over. It's over. She's gonna write a terrible review. Everyone's gonna know that I suck.
Secrets out, bollocks.
It's crazy, right? How you know, that kind of brings us to imposter syndrome. Do you struggle with that at all? Is that something that like kind of stops you in your tracks? What's your deal with imposter syndrome?
No, I'm fucking great. What are you talking about? No, not at all.
This guy over here, this fucking guy.
Hey, come on, right? No, I don't get imposter syndrome, but I do recognise that I'm not at the top of my tree yet, if that makes sense. I'm not,
sure.
You know, I'm not in the top 1%, probably not even in the top fucking 50%. I'm still finding my way. I recognise I've probably, this isn't me being big-headed, people have said there is certainly an innate talent there. It requires nurturing, it requires development. As with anything in life, you know, you're very rarely going to be an immediate fucking expert at something. There's always going to be a degree of improvement. So yeah, I think I don't suffer with imposter syndrome, but I do, as I say, recognise that I need to improve to where I want to be. Because, you know, not to bullshit, I want to do this full time. I want to give up my real job. I want to be a full-time fucking author. There you go,
bro.
That's what we right. You know.
What do you think I'm doing here?
I thought you were just fucking about. Sorry.
Yeah, man. Like, this is a hobby. No, man. Like, I'm trying to quit my job, bro. Like, I'll tell you, man. Nothing pains me more than leaving for work and having the boys be like, "We miss you, Dad. Like, where are you going?" I'm like, "I gotta go to work, man." Like, I'd much rather just be home and do some writing, you know, in the moments that the house is quiet, and enjoy my family when it's not. And I don't want to go to punch a clock and deal with a bunch of like customers and idiot people. Like, no.
You know, not to get super deep here, but life is way too short to be kind of, you know, someone else and not spending time with your family.
Same.
Shit happens, man. Like, going back to my dad, he passed in March, really out of nowhere.
Sorry to hear that, man. Condolences.
No, it's all good, man. It's just like such a shock because he was young, fit, healthy, and it was a very kind of rare lung cancer that got him 5 weeks from diagnosis to passing.
Oh man, just burned right through him.
Man, he had no chance, literally. So that kind of shifted things a bit for me. I've always been quite, I want to give up work early. I don't want to fucking until I'm dead. But that's kind of really pushed me forward to be like, actually, life's really fucking short. You got to do things, right? Within reason, you know, financially, whatever. But do things that you want to do, people. Don't wait for tomorrow. If there's something you can do today, just do it. Honestly, you just never know.
I feel like 2020 really did that for a lot of people too, man. Like it taught a lot of people that you can make money online now. You don't need to work for the man, so to speak. It taught a lot of people what's really important, you know, like let's...
Yeah. There's been a shift, I think, even in companies themselves. I think a lot of companies are now more willing to allow people to work remotely, work from home. Certainly, my job is quite remote based. I'm very lucky with my job. I get to work from home a lot.
Nice. And
it's always been like that, even before the pandemic. I work for the National Health Service we've got here. So you can imagine during the pandemic how much fun I was having. It was long hours, stressed hospitals, the whole shebang. But on the flip side, I'm able to be home a lot, so I can do more writing, and I don't want to waste that opportunity. I want to make sure I can... Look, I'll be honest with you, within the next 10 years, I want to leave behind the working life. By the time I'm 40, I want to be writing full-time. I'm not saying be rich, be a millionaire. I'm saying...
If you want to be rich or be a millionaire, you're doing the wrong career, man. Like writing books, that's not where the money's at.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if
you do it because you love it, and if you do it well enough to support yourself and your family, then you're a success, man. Like, just do it,
man. That's what qualifies as success for me. If I can earn what I'm earning now by writing books, then I'm the happiest guy in the world, honestly.
Now, this is actually you've set me up for a wonderful segue. So.
Such a fucking pro.
One of the things that I did, that I set out to do rather with my novel, is to make it as cinematic as possible. I'm trying to coin the phrase cinematic prose. I'm trying to that's my style. What do you write? I write cinematic prose. So I want to make I want my novels to be cinematic and appealing to Hollywood. Because like I said, the money is not necessarily in the books, but if your book is good and popular, then you can go to where the real money is, which is Hollywood, and be like, hey man, you want to make a movie that's going to make you $1 billion? Pay me a couple million. And then that's where the real money's at. So do you have any plans to adapt your works into any other mediums, TV, video games, whatever?
Man, I think we are on such a fucking wavelength, honestly. I write everything I write. I'm picturing how it's going to look on a TV, either on a Netflix show or a film. For this series, Original Earth Chronicles, I'm actually picturing episodes. I'm seeing Netflix. I'm seeing 12 episodes a season. That's one book. So
nice.
Yeah, everything's very cinematic. And even when I'm writing a scene, like a violent scene, for example, I sit here in my chair and I'm doing the actions. I'm like, how would he move the blade? And if I was watching it, would he do that or would he do that? And for those of you listening, I'm basically moving my wrist around like I want something. But
this guy's a pro.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Cinematic prose. I'm going to steal that phrase from now on. And tell people I made it.
Copyright Books by Adrian.
Damn it.
Trademark, restricted, whatever it is.
It's fucked me, everyone. I can't do it anymore. I'm disappointed.
Yeah, man. Like that. I honestly think about and I hope that I'm going about it the right way. One of the things that I'm doing is I'm basing my structure. I actually always do this. It's not special to my novel, but it's one of the things that I think is going to help it achieve this, which is I model the structure after the structure of film scripts. So, I picked up a few years ago a copy of the Screenwriter's Bible, and it basically takes the hero's journey and kind of condenses it into 7 turning points, and these 7 turning points make up every movie you've ever seen, and so or every good movie you've ever seen, and so and the main example is always Star Wars, right? So you have the setup, which is the first turning point, which is ordinary world, right? Day in the life kind of stuff. Then you have the catalyst, the thing that sparks the journey for your protagonist. In the case of Star Wars, it's when the message plays from Leia out of R2-D2. So that's the catalyst. That's what gets things moving, right? Then you got the big event. The big event, other writers call it the point of no return. It's where even after the catalyst, the inciting incident, as we also refer to it, even after that, the character, the protagonist, can still choose to just, I'm out, I'm going home, and they can just go about their life and nothing would be different for them, right? Like Luke could have, when Ben tells him all this crazy stuff, he could have been like, that sounds crazy, I'm out, I'm going back, I'm going to go moisture farm, have a nice day. And everything would have been fine. But the big event, the point of no return, is he goes back home and his entire family is burnt to a crisp and slaughtered. There's no going back. Nothing will ever be the same for that character ever again. He has now no choice but to go on the adventure. That's the point of no return. So that's the first 3 turning points that make up your first act of your movie. And then you've got the pinch and the catalyst, the pinch and the crisis in the middle, which is all the back and forth, all of the, fighting back and forth, good guys, bad guys, blah, blah, blah. The crisis ends with the worst thing that can possibly happening to your character. In the case of Star Wars, it's Ben getting killed by Vader.
Yeah.
And then you have your showdown, obviously, the big battle between good and evil, and then your resolution if it's over. And if it's not over, if it's a series that continues, then it's not your resolution, it's your realization. Something is coming next, and you move on from there. And so I model everything I write off of those 7 turning points, whether it's an outline for my whole series, making the second book the pinch and the crisis, for example, or it's 7 turning points for the entire novel, where I know, like, within the acts of the novel, this is what's going to happen. I model my chapters after that format.
Wow.
So that every chapter gives you a complete little arc. You could pick a chapter out of my book and read it like a short story, because it always has a setup, catalyst, big event, all the way through every chapter. And because I'm crazy, I model most of my paragraphs off of the same thing as well. Like the first sentence sets everything up, the second sentence changes things, the third sentence is no return, and it just keeps, so every paragraph goes through a journey, highs and lows. And I do that because, number one, it keeps my story moving always, but number 2, it makes it very easy for a screenwriter later on to adapt my work without having to cut too much out. It's already structured exactly the way that they need it structured. You know what I mean?
That's so smart, man. That's like, you've literally blown my mind. I've been sitting here for
cinematic pros.
I'm sitting here, I'm just like staring at the screen, like, holy shit! I know what he's talking about.
Well, it's I mentioned in the live show that I'm bringing this whole idea of courses to my website. We're going to build a community of authors that are here to support each other, whether you're a first timer or a seasoned pro. But if you're not getting everything you need out of just the community and you want to do like courses, you can choose to do those. And the courses, in my case, it's going to be all about finishing that first draft. It's so hard for someone who's never done it before to finish their first draft. And so that's
daunting as well, right?
It's what I'm focused on. Yeah. And structure is paramount, in my opinion, to finishing a first draft.
Man, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we spoke about it on the live stream. I'm very much a pantser. I kind of just write and hope for the best. But,
cross your fingers.
Yeah, just like, I do. I think, again, because obviously we consume a lot of media, be it books, television, film, we generally know within ourselves how to tell a story, I feel. But what separates the kind of mediocre to the good and the great writers is that structure and the way you just perfectly outlined, having that overriding arc and the 7 steps. It's, you know, it's, I can't express how key it is. So I'm gonna plug your courses. People are even there. Just get those courses.
When they launch, hop on. It's gonna be good. And I'm bringing Kent Sean with me. He's going to be doing an entire course just on the hero's journey. And nobody knows more about the hero's journey than that dude. He's trying to find like his take on it. You know what I mean? Like his way of making it accessible to everybody. So it should be something really, really special when it's done. Awesome. I also think that eventually Bethany Volta has already been in talks with us, but we haven't gotten very far with her yet. But hopefully she's going to have a whole course on like flash fiction and short stories and stuff. Just get all the pros to talk about what they do, you know, make it tight. Like masterclass, like Skillshare, just actual courses that you can take broken up into little pieces. Should be fun. Should be good.
It's going to be amazing. And people, if you listen to this now and these courses are available, just get them.
Go get them. Go get them. Okay. We have made it through basically every question that I had for you, as far as I can tell. Any ones that I didn't ask, it's because we kind of covered them in the conversation. Was there anything in particular that you wanted to make sure that we covered today, whether on the live show or on this one, that we haven't gotten to yet, something that you really want to let everybody know about, or maybe questions that you want asked? I'll give you the floor.
One of the questions I was going to ask was actually about your book, which you've already taken and explained in wonderful detail. So, guys, that's one question answered, which was awesome. I was going to ask as well, would you write in any other genres? We kind of touched it already, that you do mix a lot of genres in. Yeah. But I'm talking, would you write like a pure, just turn my light off. Would you write a pure...
Like a straight up like genre piece?
Yeah, straight up romance, or a straight up like crime.
I would consider it a huge challenge. And because it would be a huge challenge, I'm sure that eventually I will do such a thing. What it will be, I have no idea. If I have a weird suspicion that someday I might want to write like a really nice romance, like just like I don't know why. Like I just really, it's just so outside of what I would normally read, what I would normally watch. But at the same time, everything I watch tends to have, you know, romantic subplots and whatnot. So like it's, and obviously real life plays into it. So yeah, I think a romance, like just a straight up romance, like a Nicholas Sparksy kind of thing, you know? Maybe someday, yeah. But I love genre bending, man. I love being able to do whatever I want. That's the whole point of writing in my eyes.
That's the beauty, isn't it?
Yeah,
we can do what we want.
One of my favorite comic book series is Saga. Have you read any Saga from Image Comics? It's an incredible science fiction fantasy. It is an adult science fiction fantasy. And the premise is that there are these two planets that just fucking hate each other. They just have been at war for millennia. And they probably don't even remember what it is they hate about each other anymore. They just do. They're just perpetually wrapped in war. And so the story is follows a man from one planet and a woman from the other planet who are both soldiers in the war, who have fallen in love with each other. And from like page 1, it's being narrated by their child, their offspring. This half of each that should not exist. And if anybody found this child, it would be mayhem. So the two of them with their baby are on the run for the whole, like that's the series, is they're on the run through space and everybody's chasing them. And it's just bananas. It's the craziest fucking thing you'll ever read. It has everything in it. It has robots with a TV for a head. It's a giant cat that knows when you're lying. There's like any like creature you can think of exists in that series. And it's phenomenal. And again, it's an adult series, so occasionally there's like boobs on the page or something. Like so, it's this incredibly what's it called? Not unexpected. Where you can't, unpredictable. It's an unpredictable read that just takes you on this wild ride, and again, just melts every genre together. And that's the kind of stuff that I love to read, man. Where you just you don't know what's gonna happen because you can't follow the rules of just any given genre. You know what I mean? Yeah. For example, in mine, I mentioned we have a detective and she's investigating a homicide and she's on the trail of a serial killer. And one of the witnesses along her case that she's going to be interviewing and interacting with a lot is this weird hippie chick who does a lot of like mushrooms and smokes a lot of weed, and the stuff she says doesn't necessarily make sense all the time. But when we go into her point of view chapters, you realize that she sees everybody's aura, and she can read people in a way that no one else can. And so that's a completely different genre from the one that you're reading in the other chapter. And the way that the two kind of like it makes them unpredictable one to the other, or at least that's the goal anyways to me.
I mean, it sounds incredible. And
I'm going to send you some chapters after we're done here. I think that you would like some of them, especially when you were talking about your idea for writing a steampunk thing. You threw a couple of little nuggets of what you wanted to do out there, and I'm like, he's going to like my book.
Oh, I don't doubt it, man. I don't doubt it. It sounds awesome.
He's going to like it. He's going to like it. Chris, this has been an absolute pleasure, my friend.
It's been a blast, man. I've really enjoyed it.
This has been fun. Much. I want to have you back for season 4. You're going to have a whole other book out by then, from what I can tell. So,
I should be on the way to do, hopefully, almost done with the 3rd of that trilogy. So we'll have plenty to talk about.
All right. Season. Well, then you will be back. For everybody wanting more from Chris Kenny, he will be back. He also has a great interview with Barrett Laurie over on his channel. If you have not seen this yet, please go over there and watch it because it is fantastic. And one of the challenges of my interview today was not asking every question that Barrett Laurie has already asked. So, the dude is a very thorough interviewer. He people come to me for the animations and stuff. People go to him for the actual interviews.
Man,
he's good. No, certainly.
You're both fantastic, man. Honestly, I've had such a good time. It's been brilliant.
It's so funny. People often are like, "You guys like each other? We figured that you guys would be rivals." I'm like, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?"
Everyone has to be a rival.
I'm not rivaling with anybody. All right. For everybody at home, thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, hit the like, leave a comment, hit the bell. You guys know what to do. You don't need me to tell you. Do the things. All the things help. For Mr. Chris Kenny, his links are down below in the downstairs. His website is scrolling across the bottom there. Go check out his stuff. He's got cool books, and he can transform your body in 12 weeks. So let's do that too. Guaranteed. I'm gonna have to pick that one up, man, because I got a spare tire going on over here. Got to get rid of it.
So do I.
All right. All right, y'all. Thank you very much, and right on, writers.